Town Council meeting of the 12th of May 2015. We are glad to have our media there, always at their post. And we have Mrs. Peavoy there, Kim Peavoy, representing Temple Star, City Star. And we have Corey McCarthy representing Channel 32. Thank you for your services. We very much appreciate them. We will start with asking Councillor Edmonds to offer a word of prayer for us, please.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the opportunity we have to meet this evening and for the positions which we hold in the town. We're thankful for all that's provided for us, and we ask that Thou will help us to make wise decisions as we meet this night. And this we ask humbly in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. While we're on the topic of prayer, I would suggest that you read the first article that is in the Municipal World magazine that you got today. There is the whole issue regarding the judgment from the Supreme Court of Canada, and I really think you need to become aware of it, because in time we might have to see how this applied to this council. We have item 3, additions and adoption of the agenda. There are no addition at this point. Councillor Bengry.
I'd like to have an addition. If we can put it somewhere close to the mill rate and the budget, I'd appreciate that. 7C, somewhere in there. If I could just put an addition on there.
Councillor, the way the addition will be done, it's after the letter J, so if you would put this H.
Yeah, let's do that.
What is the addition?
It's NSK, and what would you...
Just put mill rate and letter, period.
Mill rate and letter?
Yep.
Okay. And you will address that, Councillor?
I will.
Thank you. Do we have any background there regarding that, or?
No.
Just a question about it. Is that something we should maybe hear before setting the rate?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with this addition, would you please motion? Thank you. Councillor Bengry, your motion to approve the minute?
Yes.
With the addition. All in favor? Thank you. We have no delegation today, so we can move on to the adoptions of minutes of April 28th, 2015. Any questions regarding those minutes? The only go ahead, Councillor.
No, that's fine.
The only question I had is just from a reader's point of view, and minutes, as you know, are recorded exactly on a timeline, on a real timeline, as we discuss the item. But when you read the item that Lloyd Stewart presented regarding the basketball hoops, it talks about council discussed potential enforcement and education option, and it leaves it like that. The rest of the story comes about 4 or 5 items down when we as council approve the addition, the plan presented by administration. So I just wondered, for a reader point of view, should we have something as see further detail below, or something of that sort? From an administration point of view, what could we add to kind of create a continuity with a decision made?
I'm sure we can tie it in somehow, yeah.
Yeah, so see further detail below or something like that, see decision below.
Refer to, or...
Yeah, it's just because it leaves it in the air and we don't really understand what's happening. Okay, so I need an approval of the minute with maybe the...
With that little addition. I'll move to adopt the minutes, to approve the minutes with the addition of the reference back to the basketball hoops.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And I failed to mention that Councillor Creed is not going to be there today. So, thank you. Let's move on to 6, business arising. Manitapi Summer Youth Program. As you know, we had asked administration to work with, I can't remember,
Delbert Mills.
Delbert, regarding the projects, and that could be done in conjunction with our summer student. As you can see, there is about a cost about of $3,000 or something like that.
What is that, 85?
And yeah, something of that sort. So what we need to do is have a motion to approve the project as presented, since it has a budget item, but I'll give you the chance to speak to it if you need to address any concerns regarding that. I think it would be a very beneficial opportunity to work together with First Nation on this item, and I think because it benefits youth, I would be in favor of seeing that brought through. Councillor Barnes?
I was quite impressed with his presentation, and I really like the idea myself. The one thing I'd like to know, he had mentioned that it would probably be girls.
Yeah.
Has that been established, or?
Yeah.
Or
Okay, from the last discussion we had, it said last year they had a whole boy project.
So they want to do
This year
girls
they're
this time.
willing to do girls, but it might be mixed.
It's intended to be co-ed.
Okay.
Okay.
I like the idea. I think it's a great idea.
Would you like to put a motion
I
forward?
would. Is there any other?
Yeah, before we
Okay,
get to that point, there were some concerns that were brought up when we discussed it before, and while I'm largely in favor of this program, when we get to some of the specific issues, for example, number 2 on our notes here of providing, us being
location.
responsible for providing the location, I have some concerns about that. I don't know that that's,
that is still somewhat in the works, I understand. Or is that, if we put a motion, is that something that we should exclude from the motion?
Well, if I could, Madam Mayor, yeah, I'm not suggesting by this that everything on that list is a go.
No.
That's why I've got the questions there. I would share some of Councillor Barfuss's
Yes.
concerns about putting up a facility, and maybe council just simply says, we're not doing that part. We're comfortable here, here, and here, to this level. And that's it. As an aside, he was approved for the other funding in his budget, so that's all good to go, which is great news. But yeah, I'd appreciate if council maybe gave some direction. Here's the areas we're willing to participate, and to this level. And then I have the parameters to participate at that level.
Yeah, there is a building that is vacant right now, that is the old primary school. This was not primary, preschool, that is next to ATCO.
Or the Kurds building?
Yeah, this one is for sale, so I do not know if he would be interested to try to see if they could lease it for a couple of months or for the 8 weeks that I need. That's maybe an option that could be given him. But that will be his to do and on his own expense. There is a yard where he could store his equipment there too.
So I was just curious, did we find out about liability as far as like insurance? If one of them gets hurt at said facility, are we liable, or are they covered?
Delbert is telling me that they have insurance for the kids under the program.
Okay.
I don't have any paperwork to support that, but again, I'm not that keen on providing a facility, to be frank.
Right.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of real estate in Moses Lake
yeah.
that it can work. So that's why I didn't put a cost on that one, because I just wasn't sure what that looked like at this point.
All right, so if you have the motion should be in principles with detail to be ironed out between Delbert and administration. And if we give administration the direction that the building is of the list, then it is off the list.
I got several concerns. Number one, equipment. Where are they gonna get the equipment from?
They have equipment available, they had it last year. So the equipment, although it is listed as a requirement, they have equipment.
Also, they're paying 10 participants at $8 an hour. That's below the minimum wage. What's the story there?
That
These are
is
youth,
something,
not,
that is something that is approved under his contract and under his grant. So I am not so sure that we can really say too much about that one. If the federal grant he obtained allowed for that, who am I to say what?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Is it because of their age that that's not
Yeah, it's
a
possible.
concern?
If I understand it correctly, I don't believe they're being paid a wage. They're being
Like
paid
an
a
honorarium.
stipend.
Yeah,
They're not having payroll source deductions taken off, they're not having those things taken care of. So it's a stipend for their labors.
Like a remuneration more than a wage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a formal wage.
Speaking of those wages, as you point out in this paragraph here, that there's the potential for some of that labor to benefit the town to a positive credit. So we're putting 2,500 in, it's possible we could get at least half, if not all of that back in projects that are
yeah.
completed during the
Yeah,
event.
and that's the whole idea, right?
Sure.
If I might, Madam Mayor, the other part is they're looking for some classroom space, probably on a weekly basis. That's something I think we can accommodate easier if we want to try and accommodate something as far as space goes. We have the green room downstairs, we have this room up here. You know, to make that available
It's not
4 or 5 times over the summer, I don't see as a real issue. If council wants to extend that versus extending the workspace,
Right,
I see that fairly logistically straightforward.
yeah.
I also brought this up at Chamber of Commerce, and it was discussed that they could do a First Nations art project in the current tourism hut. The entire upstairs is not being utilized, and that's a place where they could set up a class and do a little project, you know, and go back and forth to it throughout the 8 weeks. So, you know, there's places that can be made available to them, so.
Okay. Any other questions? So if I hear you, the conditions that you have are all right, we could allow them class space, but not a place where we would be responsible
workspace.
for
Storing tools,
and for taking attendance.
yeah,
That would
daily
not
meetings and
be,
stuff.
that
For-
would
for their
not be
regular
our role.
meetings, yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
getting
They
started.
they can do that.
So if you make a motion, can you make sure that you have those restrictions in it?
Yep.
Councillor
Yep,
Barnes?
okay, I'd like to make the motion to approve the working
Manitapi
the working with the town working with the Manitapi Summer Youth Program with the stipulation that we're partnering, yes, but they'll have to come up with their own meeting facility for their daily get-togethers, their meetings and stuff like that, and storing their things, their tools, etc. I feel that also that we could, as administration said, we could provide a classroom facility, you know, 4 or 5 times throughout the summer for some of those needs.
Can you maybe state in your motion the extent to the dollar amount? Would you want to have that because it becomes a budget item?
So my amount included labor as I estimated it.
Right, so
My
do you
bigger
want-
concern is the material support. That's something I'd like quite specific from council, because I want to be very comfortable around the table what the expectation is, if any, that we're going to outlay cash for materials, and if those should be used just in the community, or if we're fine in the larger community, which doesn't really bother me per se. If we buy a bunch of paint and it can be used in the larger community, I think that's fine, but I'd like some direction on that dollar. The labor piece will keep to that reasonable level of kind of participating in those select pieces that Delbert talked about.
Okay, so when we talk about material, would you say $500 is a reasonable amount?
That's what I put in there. I
Yeah.
mean, can get them 15 gallons of paint and some sundries and,
So,
I could put that in the motion that
yeah,
we limit
I'd like
our
a
participation for
limit on that
supplies
dollar.
to
okay,
$500 range.
yeah, and for labor,
And for the, now, I guess that's where I'm not quite certain, our youth labor, they're going to partner into some of these projects, but not all, right?
Mhm.
And so then the cost of our youth will be provided by the town, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if you'd be comfortable in the motion putting something like with participation of the town staff at a reasonable level, you know, that I just kind of monitor it to make sure that,
but reasonable
Not getting
is
crazy.
legally not very binding.
yeah, but I think,
We could also
Okay,
say fiscally
why-
responsible.
Why don't we put it,
Yeah,
at the
just-
why don't we put it at the discretion of the administration?
if you're okay with that, and I
I'm
would try and
good
keep
with
it to a couple, just a couple
Right.
events in the year.
So-
And the other thing I wanted to know about that, how does that work, the labor credit there?
Well, it's just simply anecdotal, to say,
Okay.
look, we're gonna shell out this
Okay.
much in labor, but we will also be the beneficiary of those kids' labor.
Okay.
Okay, good,
So
Yeah,
the
there would
mo-
be no transaction.
Okay,
right.
so the labor,
So we're going to, in this motion then, we will provide material up to $500 for
Okay.
paint or
yeah. for
related
incidentals,
materials.
Yeah,
And our youth will be participating at the discretion of the administration
Okay,
as far as the costs are involved there.
yeah, that's it.
Is there anything else?
No, I think
Okay.
we're good.
Then I so move that motion. Do you want to read it back to us, or?
I did text Jill and said, we'll work on this tomorrow. Okay, she
Okay, give us that.
Like Council Burns to approve the town working with the Manatee Summer Youth Program with the stipulation that they will have to provide the meeting facility and facility for storing tools. The town could provide the classroom space with participation of the town staff at the discretion of administration, and to limit the material contribution up to $500.
Wow.
Very good.
Sounds great, that's exactly
Okay.
what I said.
All right, so any other question regarding this? Did that cover all your concerns?
That covered all of my concerns.
Okay,
I was just going to say, in addition, if something comes up and they want to have a bigger project that's going to need more funding, we'll have council meetings between now and then where we can discuss.
Yeah, there could
That
be
kind of
some
contingency.
discretionary
all right.
program
So,
there. Okay,
ready for a vote? All in favor? Thank you. I think that might be something really interesting for our town. And for the blood tribe.
Mayor, at the end of this program, could we have them come as a delegation and maybe randomly pick 2 or 3 of them to report on?
It would be a very great idea. I even thought that we could maybe do a little supper together.
that's what I was gonna say, too, we can have a little barbecue, and Councillor Barfuss is really good at
No,
barbecuing.
don't offer service.
But I'd like to know it from the participants on successes, you know.
Yeah, and I think you make a very good point, Councillor.
I think it would be a nice
It might even
gesture
be
to finish
a
it
good
up.
gesture to invite them to our town volunteer appreciation night, you know, and have all these young people come.
Well, we can surely do
After
something.
logging that many hours, that's gonna
Yeah.
add up, actually.
Good,
But I don't want them to get lost in that, I mean, there's a lot of people there too, you know, it'd be kind of nice to have a little thing for them and the town kids.
okay. Well, we can
We can
work
talk
on
about
that.
that another time.
All right, let's go on the 7, request for decision. We have quite a few recommendations from CCW, and we need to start to put them into motion. So the first one that we required a motion for is the Blood Tribe Mutual Aid Agreement. If you remember, this is to allow us to help the Blood Tribe if there was an issue, and for them to help us if there was an issue.
I just want to point out, I noticed a couple of little errors in the text of it, so I'll get all that sorted out by the time we sign it.
Okay, so do you want it in principle
No,
at this point?
I would be fine if you went ahead and approved it, if
Okay,
you
all right.
support it, and then I'll make sure that's all worked out.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll move to approve the draft Blood Tribe Mutual Aid Agreement with the pending little adjustments that
Yeah,
have
that's it. They're not they're not,
Yeah.
there's a word I'm
Material.
looking for, material, thank you.
Okay? That don't change the content?
No, they don't.
All in favor? Thank you. Motion approved. Under 7A2, utility mutual aid agreement. That's the same kind of story, is to make sure that if we had issue with utility failing us, other town could help us and we would help other towns.
I'll make a motion to accept the Alberta Utility Company multilateral mutual emergency assistance agreement as outlined.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
One question.
Go ahead.
Were we going to go ahead and approve it, or do we need to approve in principle? That one.
We talked last, if I might, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
We talked last time about, I was asking them to look at a couple conditions. They're meeting,
Right.
this group looking at this, they're gonna meet in a couple of weeks. So nothing will be done till then. If you're okay to approve it, again, I'll make sure that administratively it meets the intent that council approved before we sign anything.
Okay,
Because then we can tell them at the table that we're there, that we're at the
Right.
table.
okay. So who is making that motion? Councillor Bengry?
Yep.
Any other questions?
I just want to make sure in there that, this can't be binding until we know for certain what's happening, right? We want to make sure that we are covered in here and then.
It's not binding until it's signed.
Yeah, until we sign it.
So we're making a motion saying.
So really, it's in
but-
principle, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. Because, but I have, once you approve it, I don't need to bring it back to council
Okay.
for approval
All right,
again.
I'm okay with that,
Okay,
I'm happy to do that, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
we can just go ahead and get it done.
yeah.
all in favor? Thank you. Those are important agreements to be put in place. 7B, we will need two motions. One to approve the budget as presented, and as you had last week, you heard much about it. And the other one will have to be approved with amortization. So I need two motions. Councillor Peavoy?
Yeah, maybe a question for administration. There was some talk last week that they might do some just fine-tune tweaking. There wasn't anything substantial that changed in the past week, so.
Madam Mayor, no, there's nothing material, again, thank you, I'm gonna use that again. And the net budget didn't change.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, Councillor?
I'll move to approve the budget with
The
amortiz-
2000,
the 2015.
do it
budget.
without the amortization.
Okay,
first.
without amortization, as it's
Okay.
been presented.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. So I need now somebody to approve the 2015 budget with amortization. Councillor Baum?
I move to approve the 2015 budget with amortization
As presented?
as presented.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. All right, so now we have to approve the 2015 mill rate by law 1636. As you saw, administration has provided you the breakdown of those mill rate. So I had made the motion at CCW for the recommendation. You will need somebody to take that recommendation.
Just procedurally, this is a bylaw, so it'll need two readings, permission, and a third reading.
That's right.
If council agrees.
And I think because it is a technical bylaw, really this one is, we might need to pass the three.
I make a motion to approve first reading of bylaw 1636 mill rate, 2015.
Okay, thank you. As presented, or do you want to have
First
the
reading.
detail? You have the
Yeah,
detail.
that's fine.
as
We'll fill in the
It's
presented.
in 1636, so.
All right, all in favor? Thank you. So I need a motion for second reading of this bylaw.
I'll move second reading of bylaw 1636, the mill rate bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Councillor Edmonds, can you allow us to, for third reading?
Can I allow you? I think I can do that.
Please help me.
I will approve third and final reading for
I gotta back you up, Councillor.
You need to.
Motion to allow for
Motion
third
to
reading.
allow.
You need
Motion
to allow
allow
that.
Third reading for bylaw 1636.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. So now we need the final. Councillor Bengry, Councillor Barfuss, sorry.
It's your turn. I move third reading for, to approve bylaw 1636, the setting of the 2015 mill rate.
Thank you. All in favor? And by the way, if you saw the Herald today, you would see that Lethbridge has a 2.36 increase in their mill rate. We have a 1.2 increase.
1.06 is now
1.05.
1.06 or 5, yeah.
1.06, and Lethbridge thought we're one of the lowest in the province. We beat them by a bit.
And if you wanted to weigh in your non-residential, you're under 1 overall.
And the residential is below. So it's not that we need to beat anybody, it's that we have a very responsible, yeah, but we have a very responsible and fiscally well-designed budget, so we could be grateful.
Madam Mayor, if I could just mention something a little off topic, but of interest. I didn't realize through all this election that the provincial budget is not passed.
No, it is not passed.
And so potentially, and
We might have to change
I hope
things.
not, but potentially,
It might
there
have
could
to
be
change.
changes to the provincial funding pieces within the budget.
Yes,
There has been no indication from the province except, are we calling her Premier Notley now? I suppose that's a done deal. Gave notice to the school boards today that their budgets will not be approved now until the end of June. And so I anticipate a notice to municipalities
change
coming
in,
soon.
yeah.
However, I'm actually somewhat optimistic that our provincial funding will be fine, simply because MSI was already cut in half for this budget year.
Correct.
So I think we'll be okay, but we're just watching it
Yeah,
closely.
the requisition for education might change.
That's right.
Because it went down, it might go back up.
Madam Mayor, at this time, I'd like to discuss the item that I brought on the request for decision under H,
Under K maybe.
or K, yeah, if that's all right with you.
Council, do you feel all right? Okay, if it's okay, go ahead.
My kudos goes out to our administration, Hawken and Jeff, for presenting the budget and the mill rate. As I listened to the radio this morning, Lethbridge set their mill rate after they found out that the tax grants in lieu of taxes, have been discontinued. Our administration picked up on that and allowed that into the budget, so kudos to them. There was the $34,000, if you remember.
That's right.
Also, they have wrote letters to the minister in charge in trying to bring this grants in lieu of back.
Okay,
And I would suggest that this council needs to write a letter in support of that and bringing that grant back. Because it's a hardship on our seniors, and it's a hardship on the other taxpayers. It's a hardship on the community to look at those. $34,000 isn't a significant amount, but you start adding up $34,000 on $34,000, and I feel that we need to drive that home, that grant needs to be reinstated.
okay. If you remember the legislation, the way it's written, the government never had to give us that money in lieu of. They gave it to us, all municipality, as an extra, but the legislation does not bind them to, it does not obligate them. So that did a good turn, and as you know, every time you get a little bit of money, you get used to that money. And I appreciate what you're saying. I do not say that it is a bad idea to try it. It'll be to our benefit. If you want us to write a letter, by all means, we can do that, and I'll be glad to do so.
I'm just thinking it may be of value to hold off in writing that letter until we know who we're writing it to.
Yeah, right now, we do not know
A
who the
blank letter to the
ministers are.
minister
Yeah,
I don't
to
know
be a
has
little
as
bit more
much impact
personal.
as running it to an individual who is.
Well, but shouldn't we write it to our?
I would say it went to the ministry anyways.
Yeah.
Okay,
it would-
we have
it
an
would go that,
MLA
but- But
as
I'm
of-
suggesting we get our Wild
MLA.
Rose MLA involved.
As of today, we do have an MLA that
Have they been sworn in today?
Yes.
this afternoon.
There we go.
They were sworn in?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know.
Didn't know they get sworn out.
okay. All right, so is it a desire of this council for
I think
us
it's a good
to write a letter pointing out to that loss of revenue? I know, I mean, I don't know that we can call it a loss of revenue, but
Well, I
it
think
is in a form of loss of
How long have we
revenue.
been getting it?
Forever and ever.
Yeah.
And it's a loss of revenue.
Well, it's something that we always took as
For granted.
part of a revenue source,
Typical entitlements.
but we,
Here we go.
I was just thinking, if we feel,
from the legislation perspective, that don't feel that there was anything.
if we feel so passionate about this issue, we may consider AUMA resolution to get AUMA on behind this, and to make it one of their hot button items. So anyway, just a thought that it's not too late to propose AUMA resolutions. I think it would get some support, probably Lethbridge.
Are you going to write it,
I
Councillor?
think probably everybody would be on board with that.
Or we could maybe ask
I'm
administration to
just,
draft.
my concern is, Mayor, is this is just the start. I think this is just the start of looking at the budget items, and we need to be on top of these kind of things.
I think you're bringing up a very valid point. There is disappointment when you lose revenue, of course there is. That it was in the legislation or not, is still a loss of revenue to
Yeah.
us.
That's right.
Well, it's
Okay.
a situation where small towns such as Cardston with no industry, that puts a tax burden onto our tax system.
I think what we need to do is maybe prepare a letter. I think there is wisdom in what Councillor Barfuss is saying. We need to make sure we personalize that letter, make sure that we know who the cabinet minister will be that received that, with involving our MLA. Absolutely. I think all those are good ideas. So, are you in favor of that letter? Just give me a sense. Yeah. Okay. So if we are in favor, I'll be, does administration would like me to write that letter and review it?
We can draft it, it's fine.
Thank you. Fine. Thank you. So we don't need a motion for that. Thank you
Mayor.
for bringing that up, Councillor. Let's go back to 7D.
Tip interest?
Approval of tip interest. Yeah, if you saw the background that Jill gave us, there is a reduction of the interest that would be given to the citizens or to the taxpayers that use the monthly prepayment of their taxes. The reason being that it is in line with the economic reality where interest rates at banks are extremely low, and this is still higher than what a bank would give you on a short term. So the 1% of interest rate payment is what is suggested for this coming year. So I will need a motion to approve that. If you need to discuss that, please go ahead. Councillor Bengry.
I'll make that motion that we reduce our tip rate to 1% from the present rate of 2.85.
1.25.
Or 1.25, yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. All right, 7E, Joseph Young card headdress. You have the background that was given by Graham. Councillor Peavoy, you brought this forward, and maybe you want to talk
Sure, yeah.
to this.
First, well, it was a setup right off the bat that personally, I have nothing to gain for whatever decision we make. However, it was discussed that we were still looking for a place for the headdress, and it came up in our Chamber of Commerce meeting that it could be on display as part of our mini museum initiative on the Main Street Historical Walking Tour. South Country Inn was the only business who runs 24-hour surveillance on their goods, in this case, the lobby. We have staff 24/7, 365. There's never not a time when you'll have eyeballs on this. We also have a security camera system that can be filming this headdress at all times. So if anything happens to it, we'll know who did it. We'll know who did it. It's in the fully lit lobby the entire time. The one concern Graham pointed out was we weren't sure if there would be any adverse effect with the chlorine from the pool, but again, when you go into our pool area, you can smell chlorine coming off the pool. When you're in the lobby, you can't smell it. So honestly, I can't imagine that would be too much of a factor, although we haven't had chlorine tests in our air to see exactly what that level of chlorine is. So and then the other concern was humidity. And we talked quite a bit about humidity. The recommendation for a headdress is that it requires a certain level of humidity, which might not be available anywhere else. So anyway, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons, and Graham's looking into those. But for the intents of this decision, we were looking at a temporary decision which would lodge it during this busy tourism season at the South Country Inn, and then we could relocate it to a museum at a later time. So that's in a nutshell what we were looking at.
Councillor Bengry.
My concern, Councillor Peavoy, is that South Country Inn, we're limiting who will see it.
Great question. Can I address that? Let me address that.
And I would suggest that the Remington Carriage Center, because of their humidity levels they have to keep for those carriages,
Right.
that would be an ideal situation and spot for it, because it's going to be seen by the tourists.
Correct. Yeah, so just to speak on that, that was actually one of our exact issues we were talking about. When we did the numbers from last year's tourism season, and we saw, roughly there's about 4,500 people that stop at the tourism hut, about 4,500. And then of that 4,500, they try to direct everybody down to the card home. I can't remember the exact number now, but I'm just going to make up a number. I think it was 2,000, 2,000 people? So less than half. I know it was less than half that made it all the way to the card home. And then when they get to the card home, of all of the people that walk into the card home, they're all encouraged to go up and see the museum. And of that, you would know that number, during the tourism season, we only got a couple hundred people.
No, we got more than that.
Did we? What was it like 800?
It's, I would say between 8 and 9.
It was, yeah, so the number came back again, less than half again. Now, not to boost any big numbers, but the South Country Inn lobby sees about 10,000 people. So more than double what you get at the tourist hut. And so if you're talking about eyeballs viewing the artifact, there would be more eyeballs that would hit it at the South Country Inn.
I will address just another point that is really totally different from the points you both bringing. My point of view is of the nature of the artifacts and who it was gifted and donated back to. That artifact was given back through a very important ceremony, a very solemn ceremony, as you can remember, and was gifted back to the town. It was to be displayed in a public place. That had to be really taken care very carefully in a proper casing, but it had also to be in a care of the town. If it is taken into a private location, it is no longer in the care of the town. And that is probably my greatest issue with the idea of putting it in a business or wherever else. So this is why I'm personally very conflicted of letting it go from the town, which we represent here, to outside the town. It was gifted to the town and very much told it was for the citizens of Cardston. It was not for the tourists. It was for the citizens of Cardston to benefit the tourists, no doubt. So how do we deal with that?
Well, then I would say just the entryway into Extra Foods would probably have the most visibility of citizens in town.
But
If
this
you're going
is
for the
not a
citizens
public
of town.
place.
No, Extra Foods is probably gets more citizens of Cardston walking through its front door than our civic
But it
center.
has to be on public property. Public property.
Well,
It
you
was
just
gifted
said it
the
has
town.
to be on public property. I think that's an opinion, not like a mandate. I don't
That's a
have a problem
mandate.
with it going on.
That's a
public property.
mandate we got when it was gifted to the town. So,
So I think the point of this proposal here is, it's sitting in a dark place, no one's looking at it right now. The idea was this would get it out for this tourism season so that people could enjoy the piece.
I totally
If we
get,
want to pull it out and put it somewhere else, that's the intention of this
I totally
request.
get the intent. This is why I say I'm conflicted.
Sure.
I don't say yea, I don't say nay, I say I'm conflicted because of the way it was donated to the town. And it was not given to the Chamber of Commerce, it was not given to a business, it was given back to the town, to the people of the town. And that's a whole issue.
I was conflicted with this situation, and I look at it from another perspective too. The perspective I see is not so much that this has to be shown to a lot of people. It was a gift to the town. But I think it was a very solemn situation, and we have to look at the sacredness of the whole situation. I would not want to make this a sideshow event. I think that the people that donated it did it with a very sacred ceremony, and I wouldn't go ahead with it without some input. I know it's ours, but also it's still, in effect, spiritually theirs.
Well,
Because
they
it is-
ask us to let us know.
They want us to
where
look
it's going
after
to
it,
be.
and I think it needs to be in a solemn way, too. And I have some serious concerns about doing it the other way. Even at the Remington Center, I don't like the idea of it in a business place, personally.
How many public things do we have in this building? Besides, well, we don't have a volunteer appreciation night anymore, but we have community theater. What else happens in this building that draws a lot of citizens of Cardston?
Rotary Dine Dance.
Rotary Dine and Dance. Let's look at those venues, because that's when the citizens of Cardston are gonna come into this building. And that's when they can see that headdress.
If I may, just being objective, because you mentioned First Nations, the piece belongs to the First Nations. There's probably
No, it
not...
belongs to
No, it's
us.
the town.
No, I
To the
said
town.
spiritually,
Yes,
sorry, you just
yes,
referenced
yes.
that it belongs to them
Yeah.
spiritually. There's probably not a business in town that sees as many First Nations traffic through its front door than the South Country. I get them all the time, both in staying in rooms and in swimming, constantly. Again, more would go through those doors than, say, our own Civic Center doors from, say, Moses Lake.
Councillor,
My concern is the preservation of this unit.
Yeah.
It's priceless, one of a kind, can't be replaced, and I think that it needs to be in a special cabinet. If you take it to the Remington, that building is designed for the preservation of wood.
Of which?
Wood.
Yes.
This is made out of feathers, which are the same as what your nails are.
And
Yes.
sinew, yeah.
And so it needs a completely different atmosphere. And I think if you want this to be around in another 100 years, we're going to have to spend the money to get it into a cabinet that is humidity controlled, temperature controlled, and has battery backup, so that if the power goes off, it's going to be preserved. Now, I would be willing to continue my research on the best way to do this. I think as to where it goes, I can't see it in a public area, like the hotel or the motel or.
Private business kind of.
Yeah.
Private.
All you need to do is, even if you have it in this container and you get some kids running around, push it over, your container smashes, you've lost your item. We have some headdresses in the museum which are only probably 50 or 60 years old, and they're showing signs of age. It has to be protected from dust, moisture, changes in temperature and things like that. So if you want, I can continue doing research on the best. There's quite a few things on the internet, but there's not too many headdresses. It's a very specialized area.
Yeah. Graham was in touch with the Lethbridge,
The Gold
University
Museum.
of Lethbridge, yeah, Edinburgh Museum, yeah.
I think they have some at the Glenbow.
Okay. So we need a decision.
Just that,
yeah.
well, I'm kind of following Councillor Edmonds' thoughts too. I realize that in the past, the museum hasn't had a large visitation record, but I think that there's a feeling amongst the new board to make it more available to the public and encourage more public to come, because they're going to start working on telling stories about artifacts, which they haven't done in the past to a great degree. And I think once people start to realize that there's a story to be told about the history of this area with the artifacts that are there, then I think you're going to see a lot more people come. And if they start focusing on events, which they've been talking about, different events that will draw more people, that these type of things, like this headdress, would be a great story to tell, along with the other headdresses that are there. And I think the museum is the proper place for it. That's my feeling.
The other thing is, they're planning on keeping the museum open 1 day a week throughout the year to make it
Create
more
more
available.
traffic,
Yeah.
which would be good. Councillor Barfuss, do you have any thoughts?
My biggest concern actually was along the lines of what Councillor Edmonds, I know with even just some of the artwork that I've had over the years, that exposure to light and all kinds of things has significant impacts on it. So while I applaud the idea of getting it in front of more eyeballs, and I think that's fantastic for more people to be
Yeah,
aware of that. I think
and
that
I
builds
agree. I
cultural
totally agree.
awareness and helps in a lot of those things. The nature of this item, I would be really reluctant to put it into that kind of an environment, especially without the protections that were mentioned in the background here, of the protecting for humidity and temperature and stuff. So.
Yeah. So I don't see too much desire to,
The other thing is the insurance on this unit.
yeah, and that's definitely
It's going to be
something
expensive.
that would be, yeah.
So I'll just wrap up and say my final bit. I agree with everything that's been said, and I really think that the utmost care and proper positioning of this beautiful artifact should be dealt with. The only difference that perhaps maybe my position versus other positions might be is that in the meantime, will it sit in a dark closet not being looked at, but of course not being harmed, or will it be on display with its story being told and shared with countless thousands?
And
So all I'm looking for here is, as it's, till September of 2015, we can put it on display and let people see it. Or, we can just leave it in the closet until all of these unknowns are answered. And I'm fine with that either way.
Okay, Councillor.
Until it gets the right cabinets and the right control, it's better in the dark,
Right.
That's right.
even if nobody sees it.
Right.
That's the safest place for it now.
Okay, so I don't see too much desire for a motion in favor of that. Councillor Peavoy, I agree that we need to move forward. I've asked Rhea many times where we at with this item, and I also would like to see this cabinet being done. He has made some contact to have that glass cabinet done locally, I understand. What we need now is to add all those controls that are needed, which is heat, light, and humidity kind of issues. And I really know that at the end of the day, we will have to spend about $3,500
Or more.
or more to be able to have this item preserved properly. But it's a part of our history, and history is important to be preserved. Councillor Edmonds?
Just one more comment. I don't think we have the right kind of people here that could build this cabinet.
Okay, so that
Yes,
is something we need to get administration to maybe look at it from a different perspective and look at it from a museum artifacts casing and
Because it
try to
has to
find
be-
out who does it.
See, one thing that has to be protected from is ultraviolet rays.
Right,
which
so
will
you need
cause it to
special
fade.
glass.
Yeah, so you need that,
Special glass and.
yeah, and then.
But I mean, I have artwork that I have behind it, glass that's designed to filter ultraviolet rays.
Mhm.
But even
I
at
think,
that,
I think there are people here that are capable of building it, but they need to have those specifications.
well, it's,
exactly what it is.
the frame, we know we can get built
Mhm.
locally. It's a glass that we need to have the proper.
For the glass and the electronic
Yeah.
controls.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we
Is this something
can,
that Bob Brody deals
Anyway.
with about?
No.
no,
Okay.
we need to probably give administration a sense that we would like to see that done sooner than later.
Yeah.
I would like to see it,
Okay.
something done.
So maybe if administration could come back at the next meeting and give us an update on progress regarding the display case of these artifacts, please.
I'd like to thank Councillor Peavoy just for bringing this forward and making it, hey, what are we doing about it? Are we
Yeah,
sitting on it?
yeah.
Whatever.
I-
So thank you, Councillor
Yeah,
Peavoy, for presenting.
and I think Councillor Peavoy, my conflict was, I wanted to be seen, but I wanted to be protected the proper way. So, yeah, I understand your
At
great
no point did I
interest.
propose any plan that didn't see it fully protected.
Yeah,
So,
no, but I mean, protected from a historical perspective.
right.
Okay, so next one, Cardston Agricultural Society. Now, that is an interesting proposal for the Ag Society. Councillor Peavoy, would you like to talk about it?
I can. Last
This
year.
is a very interesting proposal.
Yeah, last year they came forward with the plan for the Horse Expo, which was
Right.
both interesting and educational. They were
Right.
going to have horse vets, famous horse vets, come do presentations. and things. Unfortunately, they didn't get enough excitement, enough support, enough sponsorship for
Right.
that event, which was unfortunate. This year, what they keep getting requests for is to host a
Senior rodeo.
senior rodeo, and they are getting quite a bit of passion and people willing to do quite a bit for that. The idea being that this would be an opportunity for Cardston to get on the senior rodeo circuit. Now, depending on how this is done, in some areas, the senior rodeo is just kind of a donation to the seniors, and it's a known money loser. You just know you're going to lose a couple grand every time you host one, but you do it for goodwill and et cetera. There are other areas that actually pull it off successfully and are able to make it into a bit of a money maker, right? If not a break even. The whole idea just being that if you have an opportunity where these seniors can, showcase their skills, and get out of the house, and go do their thing, even if you broke even, it would be a great service to the community in the local area. It also brings quite a few travelers. These people come from as south as Texas and as east as the eastern coast. So there are participants that come from all over, so it's got quite a nice tourism aspect to it as well. So, and the idea being that if it is successful, and they're hoping that it will be, that it will catch on and become a moneymaker in years to come. so year
So
after.
you're looking for seed money through,
Yeah, this
through
one's
business
gonna need a little
opportunity.
help to get it going.
Right.
It's not self-sufficient in its first
That's the
year.
$3,400, is that what
Yeah.
you're looking for?
Well, I think they're just going for 3,000.
So essentially, there is still money in that program, from what I understand from the budget, that would wipe out your budget though. Am I correct?
Yes, so there's $3,400 available in there. We have 2 other events in there currently. So that includes, there's 5,000 or 5,500 normally.
So there's 3,400 that's not committed, is that
Yes,
what
there's
it's?
3,400 available in the fund for this year.
Right.
The others
So-
are spoken for and
Yeah, all
money's
the rest
available.
has been allocated.
So
yeah.
if I remember the program, this year they get the full amount, next year they get 2/3, the third year they get 1/3 of the program.
It's over
something
5
like
years
that?
reduced by
80, 60, 40,
20%.
20.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, 20% reduction per year. Okay, I think, personally, I kind of think is something that could be good for the town from a tourist perspective. Thing like that, we have seniors that can bring quite a bit of support in the gallery. It could be an interesting activity for the town.
I was just going to comment. I've met a lot of these senior rodeo guys, and they are really passionate about this. And they go out, and I've got clients who are senior rodeo guys, and they travel all over, Western Canada and United States.
Yeah.
And they put on thousands of miles, and if we can bring an event like this in the community, that it would definitely benefit our businesses here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And as we understand from Councillor Barfuss, every dollar spent has a multiplier effect of 5.7.
Yeah.
So you have $1 spent
significant.
here,
Yeah.
it might mean 5.7 more dollar being spent somewhere else.
I like the idea, but don't take me wrong, Councillor Peavoy, I like the idea, but I'm concerned. Because about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we used to have one of the best slide-ins in the province. And it just faded out for some reason. Who knows why? What's going to happen with this after 3 or 4 years? And the slide-in is a big, huge thing. If you go to these slide-ins, they're huge things, but they did not draw the kind of participation and the spectators that they were dealing with, that they had hopefuls for. I like the idea of a seniors rodeo, but I'm just wondering, is it all going to be there?
Or would you ever know unless you tried?
Yeah. Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I understand where Councillor Bengry is coming from. Slide-in is a beautiful thing to watch, it really is. But rodeo is more diversified, there's more out there for public to come to see, more events involved in a rodeo, as a slide-in is basically a one thing event with lots of participants, watching the same thing. So and after a while, the general public doesn't get as excited as the people who are involved in the slide-in. And I think more general public get involved in rodeos and go to them.
Well, if we look at the success they have.
With the professional rodeo and, yeah. I mean,
Councillor Barfuss?
What's been the response from the county as far as support on this goes, do you know?
The county doesn't send a delegate to Exocet. We don't have, I think one's been assigned, we've just never seen it.
Really?
Which is
Yeah.
unfortunate because
It is.
the county people are the greatest user of
They
that.
are, and they recognize that.
Then they
And
maybe
so-
should be reminded to get their person or get a different person
I'm
in there.
I'm not opposed to us supporting something like this. I would hope that the Ag Society is aware of the declining amount each year,
There.
so that there's got to be something put into there that they hope to be able to continue it. It's not going to be a 1 or 2 year thing while the funding is there to cover it, and then the funding's gone and it disappears, kind of.
Yeah, in fact, they're so aware of it, the goal is that they could be weaned off sooner. They're hoping for a 3-year cutoff as opposed to, so they're self-sufficient in 3 years is the hope.
Maybe I'd like to ask you a question. Have you approached the county also regarding that?
If they have, that was without my knowledge. They may have. They may have. There's significant people that are having to pull together for this. The senior rodeo group themselves has to come up with 5,000 or we won't do it. So that's, again, an element of, 3,000 from the town, 5,000 from the seniors, and then there were a couple other places they were going for funding, so. It's an expensive event because ultimately with any rodeo, the biggest expense is the prizes at the end. These people
Yeah.
don't show up for nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's like a powwow.
Okay,
It costs money.
Is it, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Councillor Edmonds, do you have any thoughts?
I was just wondering, they don't show that $5,000 in there,
In the proposal?
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably just on their side agreement with the other group. So what the Ag Society is tasked with is just doing the side that we've agreed with. The Ag, was our commitment, and then how we're meeting our side of this. There's another element to that that's not showing up here, and that's what they have to do, and et cetera, so.
All right, so essentially what we need to agree upon or disagree upon is a town willing to allow for seed money, $3,000 to be given as a business opportunity to this.
Just a question for administration, because this would wipe out our funding for any future proposals that came down.
For this year, you mean?
For this year.
We only have
Partially in the
$400.
next year.
Yeah, it would leave us $400 left to be able to do anything with. Are we inundated with proposals on stuff like this, or is not a big concern that way?
Jeff?
I looked, and I can't pull it up right now, but the last time this was actually even fully subscribed, we did in 2009. There was a couple of one-off events that didn't, well, they reoccurred once or twice. But no, we don't fully subscribe this very often. I think once since it's been created. So there may be a couple others that come along, I don't know, but we only had, the only one we had last year was the Christmas Lights Festival, I believe. Otherwise, we didn't have much at all.
So it's a Christmas festival.
So they can be funded up to 80% of their amount that they got last
Do we
year.
have that in the budget?
Oh, yeah, it's all accounted for, leaving the 3,400.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and also along that line, just like the Horse Expo, the intention is if all the other people don't meet all their commitments,
comes
they
back.
wouldn't
Yeah.
even,
And
Take
Councillor
the $3,000,
Peavoy,
yeah.
appreciate trying to bring another event in town. Towns don't survive without events. They
Well,
need events.
the sad news from this initiative, I just learned that it's likely they will not do the Waterton Glacier Relay this
It's
year.
off.
Yeah,
It's all.
so
Yeah,
that's
it's,
sad and tragic. I don't know, what did they need, $1,000 from us just to keep
No,
that
it's
going?
not a matter of money, it's a matter of organization, health of the people organizing it. Mr. Pilling is just recovering from surgery and just doesn't have it this year to do.
The one thing, actually, we're changing here a little bit, but I met with some of the family 2 weeks ago, and they said they got no Canadian groups signing up because their registration was in US and the exchange rate at 28% or something on your credit card kind of drove off, and they went and did the Kananaskis Run or some other Canadian ones, so yeah, they felt that drove off a lot of the teams right now.
Yeah,
so.
because last year they had a great success with the event.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we need a motion to allow for the use of $3,000 for business opportunity. Councillor?
I'm prepared to make that motion there.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion that we support the seniors rodeo
2015,
at 2015
with the use of,
with the use of that $3,000 coming from,
business opportunity.
right. However, ensuring that the seniors pro rodeo comes up with their $5,000. That's the stipulation.
Well, no, there's a bunch. There's, like it says, there's 9,000 on our end, so they have to come up with another 43 on our end, and then whatever the senior circuit.
Somehow, I'd like that put into that motion, I don't know how to word it, Mayor.
Well, we can only bind the Ag Society to the 43 that's on their side, so. But I mean, I can tell you right now that the Ag Society won't do it if the senior circuit doesn't come up with theirs as well.
And we
so.
wouldn't have to put out the money.
No,
Right.
if they did.
No, it
And
was
I-
the same story.
That's what
I
you're trying to
would-
say.
yeah, That's what I'd
Yeah,
like to put
I
in that
understand.
motion.
So do you want that restriction within the motion?
So
So
I'm just
why
thinking,
don't we
can
say
we
in
word it that-
principle? To
that
approve it
we-
in principle?
Well, they
We
didn't-
forward our money upon the
Upon,
successful.
Well, I think,
Successful
yeah, I think
application.
our grant is already written that way, right? If the
Yeah.
event doesn't happen, they don't get the funding,
Because
so.
last year, for example, they gave us the check back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. All right, so it's fair enough the way it
Right.
Sort of
is?
have to read that.
And they are aware of it.
Okay, Jill, do you want to reread the motion if you don't mind?
Moved by Councillor Bengry to approve the Cardston Agricultural Society's request for $3,000 for the 2015 Senior Tour Rodeo event with the funds to come from the Opportunities Initiative Fund. And do you want, upon the successful, success of the,
Upon successful application.
Yeah.
Is it a grant application they're doing then, you're saying?
That's,
Upon
well,
successful
no,
grant.
the grant would be you. You're the
Yeah.
grant, so. yeah.
Okay.
On the go-ahead of the rodeo.
On other funding
Right.
being obtained.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't have the funding, they're not running the program. If the program doesn't run, they don't get our
They
check.
don't get the money.
Right.
So I think that's automatically part of the grant.
Yeah.
I don't know that that has to be put into the motion. It's part of the grant.
Would you be okay as administration to have it open-ended? Okay, so let's keep it open-ended. Okay, all right. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And thank you, Councillor Peavoy, for being so active with the ACTA.
Well, one thing I'll share, just that was discussed in yesterday's meeting with this group, is that the seniors, unlike your regular rodeo participants, the seniors aren't too keen on sleeping in their horse trailers and eating out of the back of their pickup. So you get a lot more hotel and restaurant participation from something like this. So
Well,
they,
if it has that multiplier
yeah,
effect, we
it's
like
got the
it.
multiplier.
All right. The bylaw under 7D, the bylaw 1578 waiver angle parking. As you know, June the 20th, there is a big event in town. And the issue will be parking. We expect 1,500 people or so to be there at that event. We need to find more parking. And there is two aspects to the issue. One is, or we create a temporary parking and changes in the parking to allow angle parking rather than parallel parking, or we allow administration to redraft a bylaw that would allow for angle parking along 4th. The temple has been contacted and has no objection to it. Last year, the same issue came from a citizen that lives there and wondered why we would not allow that. The only explanation that was given at that point was that there is a parking reserved for buses on the north side of 4th. That will need to be preserved if we go ahead and redraft a bylaw allowing for angle parking. The issue is to do it just temporarily might create more issues for the bylaw officers that we need. So I think if we were willing to change it altogether and have a new bylaw allowing for this type of parking on the street, it probably would be better. Yeah.
Mayor, we have no development going on in the former E.J. Wood School grounds.
Correct.
At this point in time. Is there a possibility that we could use that as a parking venue for this program?
I think it will, but I don't think it would be enough, Councillor. I think that would be nice to be able to use, but it will probably have, how many cars do you think we can park there? Maybe 100 cars, or I don't even think that many.
50.
Maybe 50? Yeah, I don't really think we can do more than that, but I think the parking along that, there is a need for more parking in this town. And I addressed that many times with Marion, and the issue was always that bus parking. So there is no reason why the bus parking cannot be preserved. But west of it, there is a lot of space, and the temple has no objection.
I've got no objection in doing the angled parking on the one side of the street, the north side of the street. But what happens is, the mentality of people, they see an angled parked on one side, and they say, hey,
Do the other side.
yeah, I'm gonna park, angle park on the other side, and now we're really restricting the flow of traffic. And we're putting a notice on our bylaw officer to control that.
I understand what you're saying, but in general, when you have angled parking, you would have paint put on the
I
side.
don't think we should be painting the signs right now.
No, but you have paint on a road.
On the road.
Roadside to show angle parking. Personally, I think the season of tourism is coming, not bad thing to have more parking. It's always the problem in our town, always looking for parking. Anyways.
It would also help at times of fireworks and things, yeah,
Yes.
because right now, I know people parallel there instead of, well, that's
Yeah.
all you're supposed to do.
So I think if we want to increase the amount of parking, that's the only way to do it. But I would prefer to do it properly from the onset, have a proper bylaw in place, and live it this way year-round. Only protecting those bus stops.
So possibly, how many parking spots are we gonna be needing for this particular situation?
All of them.
Well, we cannot.
We got everything up north, and then we've got on the north side of
Councillor
Fourth
Bengry,
Avenue.
the only thing I can tell you that there are 1,500 people, I would hope that many are carpooling.
Well, I hope so too, because we've got the
Okay.
Temple Street Chapel parking lot.
That's all what I can say. I hope wisdom would say people will need to carpool,
North side of the temple.
yeah.
Gee, can you use the south side of the temple? Or that's is the Fourth Avenue, how about the Third Avenue?
See, they angle park on both sides of the street by the old E.J. Wood property there in the high school
Yes, I do,
all the time,
yeah.
right?
But it's-
That's a permanent angle on
Yeah.
both sides of the street. It's a little different in the residential area there, of course. The
But
street's the
on
same width though, isn't it?
Yes, on the front of the
Would
temple.
that create a problem if we had angle parking on both sides? How would I guess the question is, how would the neighborhood,
Well, you
the
got
residents?
This
you
is-
got residents.
This is why I think if you do it on the north side, it's good.
It's okay.
On the other side, I may not be as pleasant for the neighborhood.
Where are we at then for buses? What becomes the,
The buses is at, just across from where the high school is the first 2 lengths of bus on the side of the temple curb.
Are you talking on the west side, east side of the temple?
North.
It's on
No,
the,
Fourth. East
it's on
side.
the north side,
I think she.
Is it on, are you talking right here on Fourth?
First 2 lanes.
yeah,
The first 2 right next
Just
up
at the
against
corner.
the high school there,
yeah.
okay?
That is where Jeff even told me that he took the bus there. Man, that ages you, Jeff.
Could have been last year for all we know.
sure, that's what it
It
was.
was last year.
Yeah, it was last year.
Okay, we need a decision. If somebody is willing to put a motion forward.
Hold on,
Yeah,
If I could ask, so, if it's council's feel that we want to review the bylaw and change the bylaw, that's fine, we'll definitely do that. If it doesn't get done by June 20th, could maybe, if you're willing to waive the current bylaw for this event, make
Yeah.
that motion? And then
yeah.
just give us some direction if you'd like, and we'll bring that bylaw back to you as soon as we can.
The school not gonna be out by June
Yeah.
20th.
Okay, all right, so do you want a motion in principle to review the bylaw with a waiver a firm
Just-
waiver? How do you
Just a
want it?
motion to waive the bylaw for this
Yeah.
event. That-
Okay,
that if
but
you
with
choose
the
to do that.
intent, with the
And then
intent
just
to.
give us
Well,
some
then afterwards,
direction.
we can
Okay.
Give us some
all
direction
right.
to review it.
So, here, Councillor Barfuss?
I'll move to waive the bylaw 1578 for the women's conference on June 20th.
Okay, thank you. And then after that, you can bring that back and we'll deal with the review of the bylaw.
I'm also wondering if, for safety reasons or whatever, if we don't have a little added signage showing people that, you know, they could park down at the park, they could park at the West Wind building in that giant parking lot, and maybe even we could get some volunteers. I'm sure we could recruit some volunteers who could shuttle from there up to the high school and then back down and grab them, take them up that hill.
I really think that would be
They've got all
something that,
sorted.
Do they?
I think that
Yeah.
would be something for the
Their
church
committee.
leader
Yeah.
to deal with that,
Yeah,
rather than with us. Right now, we need to.
we're just
allow
helping them
Yeah.
around.
Okay, 7.
We
D.
need to
need to vote.
Yes,
Yeah, we have a
please.
motion.
I'm so sorry, I'm a little bit too quick there.
No problem.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. You're good, keep me on my toes. 7H, a Rotary Club of Cardston request. This is a very interesting request. The Rotary is willing to spend $250,000 for revamp of the Lions Park. What they're requesting from our town is help with the writing of their grant. They need to show that there is some kind of money coming from the town to put in their grant application. The way that is doable, and totally doable, is by allowing the town to move the funds that would have been used to do the South Tot Lot into the grant application to redo the Tot Lot in the park and to upgrade that whole park. Personally, I think considering all the support that we're getting from the Rotary Club in helping us write our grant with the swimming pool, etc., I think we can only benefit from an upgrade of a park that badly needs it.
Of all the parks in our community, that is probably the
most
heaviest used
used.
park.
Yes.
So if we were, you know, and I read through the backgrounder here, and we're basically shifting funds from a couple of projects that we were looking at doing this year and backing them up a couple of years. I think we're better off to do this, get the Rotary's help in redoing that, because it's in desperate need of being redone. It's in terrible, terrible shape. I would favor this.
Jeff, do you need to add something?
But I was just gonna add, we've been partnering with the Kinsmen over the years, so we've had this money budgeted, but now as of January, we don't have a Kinsmen Club. And so we've lost our grant partner for tot lots. And as much as the south one needs replaced, we're actually down to 3 that need replaced, which is great. But I'd hate to lose the momentum that the Rotary is building here on the park, just because to be stuck on the plan if it was gonna be south. I think if we have a grant writing partner, we need to keep them motivated and keep them excited and move it forward. That's my position.
Especially because when we need to do those south
We're gonna need a
But
partner.
Lord, we're
We'll
going to
need a
need a
grant
partner,
partner.
and
Yes,
there will
exactly.
be the partner.
Yeah.
Councillor Peavoy?
Yeah, due to the fact that I needed a ride to a meeting right after this, I ended up at this meeting. And one of the other, Lloyd Curl, is a great chauffeur. One of the things that I heard, and it came up, and it's a question, and they're actually looking into it. I don't even know if they talked to our administration about this, but there was a Rotary Club project close by, I think even McGrath or something, where they renovated the library and put an indoor, year-round, little, almost like a little McDonald's play park thing, into the public facility that was the library. And they helped fund that. And the citizens of the town were so grateful, the Rotarians were wondering if maybe that wouldn't be a better use of the funds. Now, I know they're far into this planning for the Lions Park project, but that is something they're willing to consider if we decided that was something we'd prefer as a year-round park. A couple of Rotarians were heard to have said, were this a lot of money to put into a park that's only going to be used 3 months out of the year? And of course, that's an exaggeration, but the point was well taken, and that is that we don't have a lot of recreation for young people in the winter. And moving this same funding into an initiative, maybe partnering with our library and ripping out, say, half of the children's area, drilling a hole down in the basement, letting the kids crawl around up and through and all that. It actually wouldn't be that costly compared to, you know, another project.
Okay.
So it's an option if we wanted to continue with an outdoor proposal or an indoor that would be supported by a lot of the moms in the area.
Councillor, I hear you. What I need to hear then is the official scenario 1, scenario 2 from the Rotary, because they only can give us the official word regarding that.
For sure.
So for us to even approve that, it's senseless unless we know what the option is.
Maybe we need to table it until we
Yeah, I
have
think so.
Mayor,
some representation.
I've been president of the Lions Club way back when. I've been the president of the Rotary Club way back when, 2000. My concern is this: when you're a club and you put a lot of work and money into a project, you like to see your name stay on that park. All of a sudden, we're turning this park into a Rotary Park, and it was designated the Lions Park. It's been that way for 100 years. The Lions built the first swimming pool in this town. Now, where is the Lions swimming pool? It's just an evolution of things. Has the Lions Club been approached? I know they're low in numbers, but have they been approached about maybe redoing this park, this playground? I think that we need to recognize that there's service clubs in this town, whether their membership is strong or weak. If they've got a designated park like the Lions Park, then we need to go to them and say, hey, we have a problem with your playground. Can you come up with grants and funds and stuff like that and rebuild that playground and maintain that as a Lions Park? And the Rotary Park, they can have a Rotary Park. I think there has to be some discretion there, and we just can't, as a council, I don't think, feel appropriate to say, hey, Rotary Club, go ahead, revamp the Lions Park.
Okay, you're bringing up some interesting point. Could maybe administration do a little bit of research regarding the original funders of that park and try to see how they feel? Secondly, can we try to get Plan B of the Rotary Club? It's very difficult for us without all that to make a decision today.
I'm texting with Skylar right now just to see what he's saying, so
Okay,
trying to figure
thanks.
that out.
If you'll recall, when Skylar came here and originally presented us, I brought up the idea that Councillor Bengry has just brought up, that that's the Lions Park, and people have known it's been the Lions Park. Is, you know, why are they focusing on that? I'm not saying I'm against this project,
No.
but I think it's a great idea. But the fact is that that is, and always has been historically, the Lions Park.
Okay.
You know, do you just take that away and then expect people to think, oh, no, it's no longer Lions
Okay.
Park? I
All right.
don't think that's right.
I understand what you're saying. You see the name as being a very important thing
Yes.
to honor. I understand that. I also see the other side. If you can have a facility that will be great for all the tourists that are there and the locals.
Or could it be
Or
a partnership?
a
Our partnership, exactly.
Yeah, if it is in
Yeah.
partnership, then
I like
even
that idea
better.
too.
So that is something, if administration has some information before the end of the evening, we'll entertain that.
Well, I
So
think
let's
for now,
let's leave it.
Just on this, the impression that I'm getting from any of these service clubs is that whoever the town gives 30 grand to is going to have a better chance of getting the other half, you know, on their side of the grant. So essentially, you know, we're kind of picking favorites when we say, we're going to give the Rotarians our 30 grand for parks. And the Rotarians are going to come back at us with a huge contribution. They're going to make it worth our while. versus would the Lions Club be able to come up with that same exact, dollar growth ratio if we offered them the same 30 grand or whatever. Again, the only reason it came up at the Rotary meeting, and the only reason I brought it up here, is because I think if you put this out to a public vote of all the moms of tots, they'd love to see all of these resources go into an indoor year-round park.
And I hear you. I hear you.
But with
Councillor
global
Edmonds.
warming, we're going to have longer summers.
Well, they want indoor for the air conditioning.
The
Yeah.
summer's a big deal.
Okay.
You're not helping anything.
You know, you have a concern that is legitimate. So at this point, I think we should table it.
Can we support it in principle, though? I mean, I think we all support
Well,
the idea of...
And to be honest, and Councillor Bengry brings up a really good point there.
Yeah.
Until we have something back,
We
I
should
don't know if we
table
can
it.
support, I think it should be tabled.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Well, I do like the idea of, I mean,
But let's-
prior to these arrangements, we
Until at
had
least the next meeting.
Yeah.
$30,000 equaling 30,000. I think, it's probably wise that we take that same 30 and turn it into 60 wherever we can, and
Well,
I
here's
would like to
30
see
that
that.
change into 250, so a little
Or
bit.
250.
Well, as a council, let's change the name of Redford Park to something else. That's basically what,
For the Curl Library.
Yeah.
The Rotary.
Well, that.
you know, we
I-
need to be very careful on those kind of decisions.
Okay,
Yeah.
I understand what he's saying, but I also see the flip side as if we can improve, let's improve without upsetting the apple cart.
My recommendation is we get these two clubs together and
Yeah.
see what they do,
Right.
partnership.
Jeff?
Yeah, just my conversation with Skylar, I don't think they would intend to change the name of the park. I don't think that's the intent here by the Rotarians. They just see a need.
They saw that as the park that needed the most
Yeah,
love.
they saw that as something
If
to
that's
really
the
get
case, then
behind,
I'd be all right with
but
that.
I've never heard that there was an intent to.
Well,
Neither
I'm
did I.
not saying change the name, but it's get the two clubs together and say, okay, fellas, this is what we can do. Can you help us? Do we want to work together on this program? And I think that you'd find some real good joint venture there.
Okay,
Kind of a lion swing and a Rotary slide.
Jeff, can I ask you something? Is that grant application time sensitive?
But I-
Essentially, that's what my
That's what I just
second
texted
issue is.
Skylar. He just said June 1st.
Well, that doesn't give us a lot of time.
It is.
So I mean, we still have a second meeting in
We
May.
still have the
Next
second
week.
meeting, so, no, in 2 weeks'
2
time.
weeks.
So today is 12, so that's a 26, so we still,
Yeah.
okay. So maybe best to table it and to make sure we have all those people
Are we
on
going to
board.
invite them to come and discuss it with us?
I think administration could deal with that and try to give us back the update as to the finding regarding the two clubs and try to understand the detail of the proposal a little bit better. Would that be all right with all of you?
That's what I would
Yeah.
think. Do we need a
Thank
motion
you.
to table that?
Yeah, I think we do.
I make a motion to table this
Item,
item.
Rotary Club of Cardston request
Yep,
to put
till the
a date
next meeting.
to
the next council meeting.
May 26th
Yeah.
council meeting.
Great,
Thank you. And to task administration with
yeah,
getting more detail.
yeah.
Thank you.
All
Okay.
in favor?
All in favor? Thank you.
I'd like to recess for a few minutes.
Okay,
Did you make it?
can we go through the two next items?
If I could, we've got some food that'll be ready in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. this
Which
is
is-
important.
We can
Okay.
get these two
Okay.
quick.
7I, AUMA resolution, Town of Raymond. As you can see, this is a broadband issue that is really the buzzwords or what the Town of Raymond is doing is in conjunction with Alberta Southwest and with South Grove. And is to try to get the government to start to realize that to talk about rural Alberta being connected means you need to start to develop a very strong approach to it, which means to at least have a committee that start to look at it and start to put some step forward in order for this to happen. and to look at all the different viable solutions
Yeah.
at an affordable price for the residents in rural Alberta. So what I need is a motion to support their resolution.
Mayor, before a motion is made, where does the county sit with this? This is a county
The
item.
county,
The county's very much.
it's
County's
not
very
only
supportive
the
of this.
county,
He's
it
chairing all
is,
the committees.
it is the whole of the thing. So the county is very much in support, trust me. It just happened that the town of Raymond,
Beat us.
South Grove was the first reader that brought this to the attention of the
Right.
ministers who are no longer. And so we need to revive that by way of a UMA. Yeah.
And I'll make that motion that we support the town of Raymond in the review of the broadband internet availability in rural Alberta.
Resolution
Hold
to
on.
AUMA.
Resolution. to
AUMA
AUMA.
resolution. Thank you. All in favor?
Before
Oh,
we-
sorry.
Just the one thing that I want to emphasize is that this is in support of something that the town of Raymond is doing. I honestly don't believe it's something that the town of Cardston actually has a deep need for right now, but I think it's important for us to support the town
It's
of
not
Raymond.
only at the town of Raymond, this is to represent rural Alberta.
I agree with you.
But
Well, the motion is,
And that's the reason for
Yeah.
supporting this.
Yeah.
It's not because I feel like we
Yeah.
are in desperate need of this.
totally
the
agree.
motion is actually AUMA resolution.
Yeah. The issue was that the reader cannot bring forward a motion to
Right.
AUMA. So a town has to take the initiative to do so. Raymond happened to be the town that
Right.
decided to do so. So, all in favor? Thank you, and thank you for your comments. You are right, at this time, we fairly well serve,
Now, while we're on just the brief subject of AUMA resolutions, did we want to consider moving forward on Councillor Bengry's suggestion as a potential AUMA resolution? We only have a couple weeks left to draft it and find a seconder.
For
but
our
who is going to
grant.
draft
For the
it?
grant.
Are you going to
Grant in
draft
lieu
it?
of.
Are you going to draft it?
Well, I mean, I can throw together, it doesn't have to be very
You
complex.
can't really throw it together. It has to be substantiated, and you have to have a historical background, pretty well beefed up.
No problem, I'll draft it by next week.
Okay?
Next meeting, I mean.
No, next week, because Jeff's going to probably want to run that by a few people.
I would suggest you get a hold of and phone our AUMA president
Okay.
and get her support.
Sure.
Yeah, let's try to see where they're going with that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay, so it is a fair amount of work. You have to use the legalese. It's very particular the way you have the way you have to do it.
Right.
I mean, if you remember,
I've got all the old AUMA resolutions.
yeah. But the more difficult part will be to try to get the history
Right,
behind that. If I can help you, I will.
thank you. Yeah, we'll see what we can throw together.
All right, except I'm gone after Wednesday, so,
The proverbial me.
yeah. So this is why I didn't offer to do it.
Jeff.
Okay, so we need to carry on. 7J, letter AFSC.
Did you vote on?
Yeah,
The
we
resolution.
voted on
Oh,
the
okay.
resolution.
Yeah.
yeah. 7J, letter AFSC office for the public. This is a crop insurance office that we had in the
This is the proposed letter,
Provincial
right?
building.
yeah, in a provincial building. That office was closed without us knowing anything about it. It was done overnight, I would say, to a negative effect to 400 clients and to those who live in our town that were employed at its office, who were told that they didn't have to fear for their job, but overnight the building was closed, the office was closed. And so the farmers now have to go to Lethbridge or to Pincher Creek to do their claim. But with a multiplier effect, as we know, when you have somebody come in and get a tank of gas or get a drink or whatever, every dollar spent has a negative effect when we don't have that dollar. So I think it is wise to write, especially now that we have a little bit of an election coming and things moving in that area. It is important to do something.
Now, this is the federal,
It's federal.
this is federal.
Yeah,
Our-
but the elections
Our
are...
town is agricultural-based town.
So
we need to
this
support
is
Is
the
this
provincial
Alberta?
office.
That's from,
Provincial
that's from,
Alberta.
it's Alberta,
Okay.
it's
This
from
is Alberta
Edmonton.
provincial,
It's from
yeah.
Edmonton, it's a crop insurance, sorry,
Yep.
yeah. So, I need a motion, if you're
I'll move
interested.
that we send the letter to the provincial Minister of Agriculture regarding the closure of the office.
Who is that?
Whoever that is.
Yeah, we might have to wait a few days, but I mean, let's get that letter.
I think it goes to Edmonton via the MLA, so that that's known.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's a really
It
good
gets to
idea.
somebody's hand to
So
hand.
that the MLA
Yeah.
can keep an eye on that. Okay?
We'll get Mr. Hunter busy.
So, all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn for a few minutes at the request of Councillor.
I'll make that motion to adjourn for.
For adjourn, please recess.
No.
Recess. I make a motion to recess for lunch.
10 minutes.
Well, we got some food for you as well.
Oh, okay, so
20
30
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
30 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever.
I think it's very appropriate for Councillor Barnes to make that.
All in favor? Thank
Is
you
that
for
on
your
film?
comment.
Yep, it is. I'm just trying to make it a little more entertaining. People are starting to watch the county more than us.
Dang it! No!
I don't know how many views our last
Our ratings are dropping?
So,
One.